Welcome in .cool. Global warming has the Siberian permafrost melting, and when the ice disappears, strange things have started to come to the surface. Now something that's been asleep and buried in the ice for thousands of years has come back to life. What did researchers find, and will this discovery lead to the possibility of humans being frozen and brought back to life thousands of years later? Back when woolly mammoths still roamed the planet, there was another creature that just might be the toughest, tiniest animal that you've never heard of. Say hello to bdelloid rotifers. It is a microscopic, multicellular creature that has complex anatomy, is one of the planet's most radiation-resistant animals, can survive starvation, low oxygen, years of dehydration, and it can live in extremely acidic environments. So why haven't you heard about it until now? It might be because this creature had been previously unknown and frozen in Siberian permafrost for 24,000 years. And it's still alive. Not only that, but after being thawed, the tiny creature went on about its business eating and reproducing like nothing ever happened. So how is this possible? Well, scientists still don't understand how this tiny animal is able to shield its cells and organs from catastrophic conditions like being frozen, and its ability to patch up broken DNA, but they are trying to figure it out. But this is not the only time something ancient frozen in the ice has come back to life. In 2018, Russian scientists found two tiny roundworms buried in permafrost in two different places that were estimated to be between 32,000 and 42,000 years old. Once the temperature was warm enough, the worms sprang back to life and started moving around and eating. If really true, it means these are the two oldest known living creatures on the planet. Now scientists are busy trying to unlock these microanimals' secret biological codes so that we might be able to preserve other animal cells, tissues, and organs on Earth and beyond. And this is why scientists have sent both rotifers and tardigrades into outer space. Speaking of tardigrades, this is another microanimal that is super tough. In case you're new to this little creature, they are odd-looking microscopic extremophiles that are also called water bears or moss piglets. They can survive zero oxygen, radioactive and cosmic radiation, boiling water, high pressures, sub-zero temperatures, and even the vacuum of space for years in cryptobiosis, a state of extreme inactivity where all metabolic processes stop. Just how tough are they? Frozen moss was collected in Antarctica back in 1983, and tardigrades were found in the moss, removed, and stored at -20 degrees Celsius. But in May 2014, Japanese scientists thawed out one of these tardigrades. 2 weeks went by and the animal started to move, eat, and it laid 19 eggs, of which 14 healthy water bears hatched without any problems or defects. We're talking about a creature that has been frozen for over 30 years in ice. Now that's incredible. But this isn't the only time scientists have revived something that's been frozen and sleeping for thousands of years in ice. In 2014, scientists discovered an ancient virus that was taken from a layer of permafrost 30 meters, 100 feet, deep, and had been laying dormant for more than 30,000 years. But the big surprise was when French scientists thawed the virus and it started moving. And this virus is big enough that you can see it under a microscope unlike other viruses. Not only that, but it was still infectious. But hold on, there's nothing to worry about. This giant virus can't hurt humans or other animals, but it did attack and wipe out some single-celled amoebas. Of course, just because this ancient virus isn't deadly, that doesn't mean there isn't something still hidden under the frozen tundra that could be unfrozen and infect humans. And some scientists believe it's only a matter of time until the melting Siberian permafrost unleashes an ancient deadly virus or plague. And it's not just ancient tiny microscopic creatures that can survive extreme cold. There are other modern-day animals that can handle subarctic temperatures, like the wood frog, Rana sylvatica, that can survive cold weather by freezing up to 70% of its body, including its brain and eyes, and the frog's heart and breathing completely stops. But when spring comes around, the animal unfreezes and its body returns to normal. How does it do this? Turns out that with frogs have germinating proteins that drain most of the water out of their cells, and their liver produces glucose, like a sugary syrup that fills the cells and acts like an antifreeze. You see, that is why humans and most other creatures can't survive the freezing cold. The expansion of water inside the cells of an animal, as the water freezes, causes the cells to expand and rupture. Now, we know that humans can't survive extreme cold without some serious heavy winter clothing. But would it be possible in the future to freeze a human being, and then maybe 100 or even 1,000 years later, reanimate them and bring them back to a normal state? We've all seen the stuff in science fiction movies where a person is cryogenically frozen for a long ride in space, and at least in science fiction, this cryosleep also stops the aging process. But how much of this stuff is really possible? There are companies that are in the business of freezing your body or cryogenically preserving it in the event you perish from some incurable disease. The idea is to freeze a person's body, and then when medical technology becomes more advanced, reanimate the person and cure the disease. Alka is located in Scottsdale, Arizona, and so far they have over 180 people cryogenically frozen until medical science becomes so advanced that doctors may be able to revive and cure them. But there are 2 more places where you can be frozen with enough cash in hand: the Cryonics Institute in Michigan, USA, and Russia's Kryorus, where the frozen bodies of at least 50 people are cryogenically frozen. The oldest of these frozen humans is a 73-year-old psychologist named James Bedford that has been frozen for over 50 years now. He is famous for being the first person to have their body legally cryopreserved after he passed away from kidney cancer in 1967. In 1991, Alka decided to rehouse Bedford and check on his condition. When they cut open his metal capsule, they were surprised to find that his body was still in good condition. He was then wrapped in a new sleeping bag, immersed back into liquid nitrogen, and placed in a new aluminum pod. Famous baseball player Ted Williams has also been kept frozen in liquid nitrogen in hopes he'll be resurrected one day. But there are skeptics of this process that say once a person is deceased, that is, it's over. And except for human embryos, no human being has ever been revived from a cryogenically frozen state. Now, you might be wondering how these facilities can freeze you and stop the aging process without your cell completely freezing, rupturing, and causing irreversible damage. If you hire a company to freeze you, and when the time comes, their cryonicists quickly drain all of your blood, then perfuse your body with a mixture of antifreeze and organ-preserving chemicals called cryoprotective agents. You are then vitrified, where you are placed briefly in a solution that dehydrates your body. Then you are lowered into a below-freezing chamber filled with liquid nitrogen at minus 200 degrees Celsius, minus 328 degrees Fahrenheit. This doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And if you decide you want to be cryogenically frozen, it will cost you around $200,000 with Alka, only $28,000 with the Cryonics Institute, and no one is sure what the Russian Kryorus charges, but it probably prices for the wealthy only. Some call these places expensive funeral homes, and believe it will never be possible to resurrect a frozen human, being because the brain will be destroyed once frozen. But advanced medical science might have something to say about that. In 2017, a young American scientist named Robert McIntyre from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology successfully froze, and then revived the mammalian brain of a New Zealand white rabbit. When thawed, the rabbit's brain was found to have all its synapses, cell membranes, and intracellular structures intact. There are also other companies out there who are watching to see what happens next. Because if it's possible to successfully freeze a human and then reanimate them at will, the uses for space travel will be huge. One of those corporations is SpaceWorks Enterprises that is working with NASA to build a stasis chamber that could induce a state of torpor or metabolic inactivity medically for astronauts traveling long distances. The sci-fi technology behind the chamber is based on using therapeutic hypothermia, where the body's temperature will be lowered to 32 degrees Celsius, 89.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and you would be sedated so you wouldn't realize you were being frozen to sleep. This nearly sends your metabolic rate into suspended animation, and that sounds dangerous, but it actually counteracts potential injury to bodily tissues that could result from hypoxia. This chamber will also prevent the harmful effects of microgravity exposure, keep killer space radiation out, and astronauts will get nourishment intravenously. This would allow the ship to take on less supplies. It would also have positive effects on mental stability. Astronauts on a 6 to 7 month journey in a small enclosed ship on its way to Mars might get on each other's nerves real fast. But there are a lot of things that will need to advance in medical science before we get to the stage of waking up cryogenically frozen humans and using the tech for space travel, including nanotechnology that will be needed to repair tissues at the molecular level. And even the biggest skeptics say that the chances of resurrecting a cryogenically frozen human is low, but it is not impossible. It would seem that cryosleep might actually become a reality. If man is able to overcome this challenge, it would not only allow for long space travel, but also a step in saving and preserving life and intelligence as we know it. Thanks for watching Dark Core.